Hey, I'm Jamey from Stillmeyer Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the new game, First in Flight. I guess a slight disclaimer, I did pay for this. I backed it on Kickstarter. I have worked with the designers Ben Rossett and Matthew O'Malley before, and I am really impressed by this design. I've only played it once so far, played it at 2 players, but it's definitely staying in my collection. I can't wait to play it again. It combines some of my favorite mechanisms all in one box. It has a one-way action selection track that you're using to choose your actions. You can see that on the board here. It uses deck building. It uses push your luck within that deck building. And it uses engine building because you're making your deck and your ability to do various things in the game better as you play. Combination of a lot of things that I love. My favorite mechanism, though, is all combined into the flight mechanism. So there are certain times as you're moving around this one-way action selection track, you'll do it 4 times over the course of the game, that you'll end up, or that not that you'll end up, that you'll choose to fly. This is a game about testing an airplane, trying to get an airplane off the ground for a certain distance. The goal of the game is to get the distance up to 40. Let's see if it's the same on both sides of the board. Yeah, 40. Trying to get up to a distance of 40. You can go beyond even if you want. And if you reach that distance, that triggers the end of the game. So even if you haven't completed all 4 rounds, if you're able to reach that distance, that triggers the end and you're probably going to win. Other players do get a chance to catch up, and even you get a chance to do one more flight to do better than that. But yeah, that's the goal of the game, to have a flight that lasts at least 40 distance. I won't go, well, it'll be tough not to go into all the different elements of the flight mechanism, but very in brief, you have your own starting deck of cards that all have the same back like this. And in your deck, you have some basic cards. You have some basic cards that look like this. So these are 1 distance cards. You also have an experience card, and I like how this works because whenever this shows up in a flight test, whenever it shows up, it's worth 1 distance, and right away you get to add a 1 value card to your flight. And also at the beginning of the game, you get 4 random, unknown to you, cards that impede your flight. So these are what's the name of them? They're not damages, but they're impediments. They're elements of the flight that you don't want in your deck, that you're discovering about your plane. Design flaws. They're design flaws about your plane, and they're in your deck. And you don't know what they are, which I love, that this element, that there are things that are wrong with your plane, but you don't know what they are yet. And so when you take off, all you do is you shuffle your deck. This is the only time that you use your deck in the game. You shuffle your deck, and you start revealing cards one by one. And you're trying to get, a long distance. You're trying to have a longer flight. And as you reveal those cards, at some point, you might reveal some of these design flaws. So they look like this, and they're still worth a distance. You're still in the air, so they're still worth a distance, but you have these damage icons that start to show up. And if you have 4 of these show up during the duration of a flight, you crash. You still get the distance because you have still flown that far, but you crash, and a few bad things happen. But also when you reveal these design flaws, it tells you something that you need to do. So it's a bad thing happens that you don't know yet because you don't know what these cards are in your deck. And even during the game, you can get more of these cards as you add good things to your deck, as you upgrade your plane. You can also you will also get more design flaws that you need to discover. But this isn't completely a bad thing, and I'll explain that in a second. So you're revealing all these cards. You reveal design flaws. You reveal cards that extend your flight. And at a certain point, you'll just decide, okay, I've gone far enough. I need to land now, because you can't just stop the flight. You actually need to land the plane. And that's where you have to reveal your glide card. I don't have one handy here, but a glide card is worth a distance 5. So it's great, distance 5, unless you crash, then it's only worth 2. But after you play that glide card, you still need to reveal, you're required to reveal 2 more cards from your deck. So you don't know what they are. They could be more crash cards. They could, even though you might be completely safe up to that point, with only, say, 2 of the damage icons, you might still draw 2 of your crash cards to end the flight. But I really like that feel. I mean, the whole arc of what I just described is wonderful. That you have cards in your deck that are good, they give you distance, design flaws that you're discovering while you fly, a glide card that's worth a lot of distance, 5 distance, but that isn't a safe decision entirely because you still have to reveal 2 more cards. I love the entire arc of the flight as you go through it. There's even cards that you can get that don't go into your deck that upgrade your ability to fly. So that there's a card that says, look at the top 3 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order during a flight. So that feels really good too during a flight when you can modify what you're drawing at that moment. Let me see what I'm missing here. So a couple of reasons why so that's what a flight looks like, right? You're ending up with a certain distance based on how far you flew. So say I flew, whether or not I crashed, I flew a 12 distance, I get to move my plane up to 12. That is essentially my score for the game. The next time I fly, though, it's not 12 plus the new flight. It's my longest flight every time. So if my next flight is only 10, then I just leave my plane at 12. But if my next flight is 16, that's great. And this is one of the reasons to fly. One of the questions I asked while I was learning this game with my friend Henry was, why would I fly early in the game? Like, why not just wait till the end of the game and just do one awesome flight? And there are multiple reasons for this. And this is really my favorite mechanism, the reasons that you might fly earlier in the game. One of them is that when you reach the 15, so when you have a flight that's at least 15 meters, I think it represents, then you become famous. And when you become famous, you flip your character card over to the backside. Let's see, yeah, I have one handy right here. So, you start with a basic side of your character card, and then when you become famous, you flip it over and it becomes even more powerful. So that's great. That's a reason to fly, right? You become famous. The second reason is that at the end of each round, you look at who over the course of the game has made the longest flight, and you get money for that. So over the course of the game, if I have made when we change rounds, if my longest flight is longer than anyone else's, I get $7, then 5, then 4, then 4. So there's a reason here as well to always be pushing that flight distance so that you can be better relative to the other players. There's also the element of just winning the game, hitting that 40 distance and triggering the end of the game and probably winning the game as well. And the last thing, and this is, I think, perhaps the most clever thing, and the reason that I mentioned the flight, what did I call them again? Not damage. I keep thinking damage. They are design flaw. The reason the design flaw cards are so interesting in the deck is that when you fly, if you reveal any design flaw cards, you are allowed to take up to 2 of those cards and put them in your garage. So if you have revealed design flaws, you can take them after a flight and put them in your garage. And that allows you to take repair actions on the board and repair those design flaws. That's this little icon right here. So you can go and you can pay some money to repair a design flaw, and that removes it from your deck permanently. Because if you haven't removed it, if they're still sitting in your garage the next time you fly, they go back in your deck and you have to fly with them again. But flying reveals these flaws with your airplane, allowing you the possibility of paying to repair them and remove them from your plane. And this makes sense perfectly thematically that you are doing the thing that you were trying to fly, and as you were doing so, you were discovering elements of your plane that aren't working, and you're taking that opportunity to repair them, to fix them, to make them better. All this combines with a really, really fun mechanism. And even though I've spent the last 8 minutes describing this, an entire flight takes, 30 seconds. And it's actually fairly fun for other players to watch because you're just revealing one card after another until you decide to stop. It's very fast. And it's entertaining to watch, I would say, as you watch other players attempt it. So yeah, all those go into the flight mechanism. In particular, they give you a reason to fly early in the game and not to wait until just late in the game for one big flight. Those are my thoughts on my favorite mechanism, the flight mechanism in First in Flight. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments below, or if you have any other games that have anything like this where the game gives you a really good reason to do it early in the game, even though it is ultimately an end game thing, like the way you win the game or the way you score points in the game, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks.